Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. At the end of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna has shared around 690 messages with Prince Arjuna. He tells him at the end, and I'll tell you in brief. He says that never explain, he's referring to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, never explain this to someone who is not a devotee. Next shloka he says, that person who does explain Srimad Bhagavad Gita to a devotee, that person comes to Bhagwan. In the next shloka he says, the person who, again, shares these teachings with devotees, there is nobody closer to Bhagwan than such a being. In the next shloka it says, that person who studies Gita with conviction, they are worshipping Bhagwan through Jnana Yoga, through Jnana Yajna. And such a person, in the next shloka, he says, just by listening to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that person is just as free as someone who has virtues. And the point I wanted to make here is, in the next shloka, he tells Prince Arjuna, he says, now that you have listened, have you listened with undivided attention? This question is actually being asked to us. Are we listening with undivided attention? In our CHYK discussions, in these discourses, who here does not want to be fearless? Everybody wants to be fearless. At a lower level, everybody wants to be confident. But at times, it almost seems like most of the times, we act otherwise. We want to be fearless, but we keep engaging in fear. Today, right now, we have to make a choice. It is the choice to live a life of fear or the choice to let go of fear. At a technical level, what Vedanta says, this is called mumukshutvam. The intense burning to be free. And there's 4 levels of that. At the highest level, it's called tivra mumukshutvam. Tivra means intense. And how do we know how intense this is? What Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, imagine your hair on fire. And everyone in this room has hair. Imagine it's on fire. How much you would want water, that's how much one would want to let go of fear. And maybe to bring this example more close, I don't know if anyone here has ever drowned before or seen someone drown. How much one gasps for air, that's how much one would want to, needs to be, to get out of fear. Then less than that is called madhyama mumukshutvam, middle level seeking. Such a person wants to be free as soon as possible. It's not right now. As soon as possible may be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but it's not right now. For us, we may be that person that I'm okay with fear. Less than that is called manda mumukshutvam, that person who is slow when it comes to wanting to be free. That person says, I want to be free after I have grandchildren and they're looked after, then I'll look towards happiness, essentially. That's what they're saying. I meet a lot of parents. I'll give you a specific example. I was at Bhiksha at someone's house, and the couple is sitting across from me, daughter's to the right. She's young, maybe 10 years old. We get into a dialogue, and I ask the mother, how would you feel if your daughter joined the Vedanta course? And she looks at me straight in the eye and says, I'd be disappointed. And I was thinking, you invited me to your house, and now you're telling me you'd be disappointed? See, she wants her child and them to learn from an Acharya, but they don't want their children to be an Acharya. In other words, we want our kids to be happy, but not too happy. That's what they should say. Instead, I don't want you to be too religious, they should say, I don't want you to be too happy. Because then they'll see the fallacy of what they're trying to communicate. So that person who's of a manda mumukshutvam, I want to be happy after I have grandchildren. That's what I'm saying right now. But until then, I'm okay with fear. I'm okay with sorrow. And then you have the person who is ati manda mumukshutvam, very slow. That person says, what freedom? What enlightenment? So the choice has to be made now. Because fear leads to physical, mental, and intellectual failure. Like a car overheating, like a computer overheating, like a television overheating. I don't think televisions overheat, but imagine that it did. This is what fear does. Once there was a king that was gifted 2 Persian eagles. And this king has everything, and that's why these gifts were given to him, because he doesn't have these. And he loved these eagles, and one of these eagles would fly wonderfully, all over the place, very strong. The king was very happy with this. Another eagle just didn't fly. So he called his best animal trainers, they tried to work on him. Tried to call the best trainers in the kingdom, they tried to work on that eagle. But nothing, that eagle would just not get off that branch and fly. So he sent word out to the whole kingdom, if anybody has an insight into encouraging this eagle to fly. And many weeks passed, and this king, because he loved this gift so much, these gifts so much, became perturbed by it. One day, he's just sitting and looking outside of his window, and he sees that eagle that never flies soaring through the air. And he runs to the trainer and says, is this the eagle that doesn't fly? And that trainer was so happy too. What happened? And that trainer said that there was a farmer who has some eagles that live by that came and helped this eagle fly. What did he do? What did that farmer do to that eagle? He cut the branch off that the eagle was sitting on. And that eagle had no choice but to fly. Us too. Cut that branch off. Don't let fear be an option. Because it's an option, I choose that as an option. This eagle, if it didn't fly, would have damaged itself. Often in life, we don't get a second chance. That if we give in to fear, that chance may not arise again. So as our camp theme is shared, face everything and rise. We'll do a brief review. Bhagavan Rama is the nature of joy. And the only way to truly be free of fear is to be joyous and not to be dependent on articles, beings, or circumstances. Articles come and go, beings come and go, circumstances come and go. And as long as I'm dependent, I will have fear. When I grow independent, I will be fearless. When Alexander had come to India, to Bharat, one day there was a sadhu that was just lying on the road. And Alexander says, move. And that old man looks up to him and says, I only answer to the king. Naturally, Alexander says, I am the king. And that old man says, that king. And Alexander takes out his sword and says, I will cut you down right here. And that sadhu looks at him in the eye and says, I'm you, I'm that sword, I'll watch this body get cut down. Alexander puts his sword away and walked away then. See how that person is not dependent on anything. And so there's no fear of anything then. These are real life examples of people who live like this. Ravana, on the other hand, is of the nature of desire. And wherever there's desire, there is compromise. To get this, I will do this. We use the example of bribing, cheating, lying, stealing, whatever we do, to get what we want. So these two are face to face. And Vibhishana is watching this. And he goes with his genuine, sincere concern to Bhagavan Rama. You have no chariot, you have very limited weapons, and you're not even wearing shoes, meaning you have no armor. Ravana has this elaborate chariot, immense weapons, and intense armor. So intense that if his heads get shot off, new ones come up. That's how intense his armor is. So Vibhishana asks, what are you going to do about this? And Bhagavan Rama replies that virtues are always greater than violence. That no force, no violence can ever lead to lasting victory. If I force you to be like this, in time then, that force, when released, I'll go back to who I am. That change has to come from within. This battle is happening right now. I'm sure the battle happened this morning when you received your wake-up call. Some of you actually expressed your battle on the phone. But that's the battle. Where else is Kurukshetra but the mind? If you've studied Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the first shloka, the blind king asks, what happened? He uses the past tense on the battlefield. Why does he ask what happened? To show us that what happened historically is important, but more important is what is happening now. Who's winning? Are the selfless parts of you winning? Are the selfish parts of you winning? Who is winning this battle? Only you can ask yourself that. Only you can decide that for yourself. That was the context, the content of what we studied yesterday. First virtue was courage, sauraja. Courage is the strength to face outer challenges. And one thought we shared was, what is the worst that can happen? We miss a flight, what is the worst that can happen? Someone insults us, what is the worst that can happen? We don't get the job or get into school, what is the worst that can happen? If I think like that, that strength to keep on facing challenges comes up. And the practice, the coin of courage. How many of you have a coin with you right now? Good. So no one's practicing. Keep a coin with you. Just perspective. When you feel the negative perspective, flip it. Get to that positive perspective. Second virtue was persistence, dhiraja. And that is the strength to face inner challenges. And the message we focused on is, believe you can. That was President Obama's message a few years ago too. We can, right? Believe you can. Pujya Swami Chinmayananda said, we can, we must. It wasn't maybe we can do it. We can, we must. And the practice that was shared is, revolve around satsang. Like we ask ourselves, what social circles do you revolve around? We should ask, what satsang circles do you revolve around? What kind of people are these? And at least once a week, recharge your battery. We do it with our phones. Do it with the mind. Be around people who are persistent, that have given up on giving up. The third virtue, honesty. Honesty is a better way of presenting this. Satya. And that is to live up to our beliefs. If I believe this, I should rise to that belief. And what we focused on was thinking in the long term makes sense. In Canada, we have intense taxing on cigarettes. Because in Canada, healthcare is public. So the more people smoke, the more the government loses money. So what to do? Charge them now. It's a preventative measure so that people don't have as much lung cancer, mouth cancer, etc. In America, 17 cents of every dollar goes towards healthcare. When judges overrule things like you can't have big sugary drinks, what else did we expect to happen? There has to be this long-term thinking. Even in our developed nations, and specifically North America, there's no money going into infrastructure, especially in the big cities. Traffic just becomes more and more and more intense. That's lost productivity. Put money in the cities. Get public transport going. Long term. But everyone's thinking short term. Even politics. What can you really do in 4 years? So what do? I act in such a way to get votes. It's here. This is my sphere, rather than what's best for the nation. Long-term thinking makes sense. Our practice was alarm clocks are authority. When they go off, get up. The police officer said, you're speeding, so you're speeding. The alarm clock said, get up, get up. 2 alarm clocks, buy the funky alarm clocks, whatever it is. This is the Dharma Ratha that Lord Rama is describing. The 2 wheels, the first flag. When Puja Swami Chinmayananda was a young boy, he grew up in an educated, wealthy family in Kerala. And in their big home, every evening, they would have prayers. And he was a young boy at this time, and he didn't know what was going on in prayers. So what he would do is, there was a picture of Lord Shiva at the altar, and he would stare at it. The feet, the legs, the deer skin, the arms, the snakes, the hair. And he would stare at it, and then he would close his eyes, and he would imagine if he can go through all of the details. And if he forgot a detail, he would open his eyes again and focus on that detail and close and continue like this. This is called upasana. Upa means near, asana means sit. Sit near, in this case, Lord Shiva. And recently we celebrated Mahashivratri. When we were studying at the ashram, I heard from numerous people that on Mahashivratri, Puja Swami Chinmayananda told people, don't touch me, not even by accident, on Mahashivratri. Some people touch his feet, brush against his shoulder, whatever it may be. And people who had forgotten, that didn't listen to his instructions, they experienced a surge of power which they cannot explain. And the reason for this is that if a person who's, say, 4 years old and he's practicing sitting near Lord Shiva, he internalized Lord Shiva so thoroughly that you become Lord Shiva then. And that's why if you read his writings, he writes, Om Namo Narayanaya. He doesn't write Om Namah Shivaya. Because Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu. How logical this all plays out in our own lifetime. This has happened. How many of you have met Puja Swami Chinmayananda physically? By show of hands? Okay, maybe not in our lifetime, but there's people in this building whose lifetime this had happened to. Invoke the same. Bring this Dharma Ratha to your mind. I would even encourage all of you to draw it. That could be one of your activities or exercise. During Mona, draw this Dharma Ratha. Make this real. Like people envision how they're going to look on their wedding day or their graduation day or matching day or whatever it is. Imagine how your Dharma Ratha will look. Then sit in it and go through fear. We continue to the next flag. The next flag is Shila. Shila means character, but specifically good character, not bad character. Yeah, put up the flag of bad character. Good character. The word mantra means mananat trayate iti mantraha. When one reflects, mananam, when one reflects, this helps one to cross over fear. My wife's name is Sheila. Many of you have met her, many of you have not. Her and I went to see Paranormal Activity one evening. Many of you are scared of scary movies. It's a scary movie, I'm not denying that. She was really scared. She couldn't sleep after watching this movie. So I'm fast asleep. And she's bothering me, I can't sleep. So I told her, just chant Hanuman Chalisa. And I went back to sleep. And I asked her the next morning, so did you end up sleeping? And she said, yes. That manana trayate iti mantra. As soon as she started reflecting on this Hanuman Chalisa, then that fear, one crosses over that fear. And she went to sleep. They call a muni is someone who is mananam shilavan iti munihi, the one who has good conduct, good character when it comes to reflection. Now this has to be one of our flags too, because we don't just want to be safe, we want to be successful. That comes from character. Our character is built desire by desire, thought by thought, action by action. Our character is built. And this is why in Sanatana Dharma, we have samskaras. Samskaras means actions that are well done. And I'll give you an example. It's a big subject. We studied this in DC. One of the samskaras is called annaprashna. When a child eats solids for the first time, and before they eat, what does the family do? They worship water and plants. Worship them, literally. And think about it logically. This water and plants are going to sustain that child forever. So it shows that we give this great importance. See how that samskara in that child will remain forever? Will people overeat? Will people waste water if they really believe this? A lot of us don't have those samskaras, and so this is what we do. One goes to a restaurant, and even as you're leaving, they'll fill up water. Right? Say no. Why let that water be wasted? Ideas like that. In some of our Chicago camps, we were given a shower coach. 5 minutes in the shower. That's it. You can't spin it twice. Just once. You have 4 people in the room. If you got up at 6:30, some of you probably sacrificed your shower this morning. It reminds me of a Simpsons episode where Homer and Marge are discussing their finances, and they call Bart and Lisa into the room, and they said, "Kids, only one of you can go to college." And they both go, "Yes!" Because Bart doesn't want to go, and Lisa does, so it worked out perfectly. So some of you don't want to shower, so it works out perfectly. For us, at a CHYK level, going from a spiritual level to a CHYK level, we have a habit to intensify fear. When fear is there, we keep on focusing on it, and it only becomes more and more and more intense. Like I was telling you about knee pain. If I keep thinking about it, it's going to only intensify. That's why in this song by Bobby McFerrin, "Don't Worry, Be Happy," when you worry, you only make it double. That's what happens when we worry. So why worry? It doesn't change anything. When we have fear, face it. Go through it, and then most importantly, debrief. A lot of our fears is before we begin the actual activity. But when we finish the activity, we think to ourselves, hey, why was I making this such a big deal? I could have done this. I didn't have to waste so much time or worry so much. Debrief on how you did it. Otherwise, that same fear will come again and again and again. There's a proverb that as one grows older, one becomes wiser. Correct? You've heard that? What kind of people say that? Old people. Old people say that to make themselves feel good. Wisdom only comes with age when you reflect on your experiences. Because if I don't reflect, I keep making the same mistakes every year then. So debrief. Fear is never as fierce then. In our short-term thinking, we tend not to debrief, so it just keeps going. A strong gauge to know if we have fear in our hearts or not is how we react. In our reaction, we can see what kind of person we are. When Lord Rama was told that he would be the king of Ayodhya, what did he do? He smiled. Shortly thereafter, he's told that now you will have to go to the forest. Not only will you not be the king, you have to go to the forest for 14 years. What did he do then? He smiled. His smile didn't change. When he told his mother, he said, first my father made me the king of Ayodhya. Now he's given me a much bigger kingdom. I'm the king of the forest now. What even-mindedness. He told his mother, I've read two versions. In one version, he said, I'm going for 7 years, and then I'm going to go for another 7 years. Like it's a bonus. You executed that contract for another term on your lease. See how even-minded he is? His reaction. What is our reaction when we face certain circumstances? And when we think about this, our mind should actually go to our elders, our parents, our grandparents. They faced real challenges in life. For many of our parents who came to this country, they didn't come to thrive. They came to survive. If they don't work hard, they don't sleep in a home. They don't eat. Most of us have not experienced that. Now our work is for thriving, really speaking. Imagine our grandparents being under British rule. Racism, for example. How much that would have been. I was telling some people yesterday that at the gym, I got into a dialogue with a gentleman, and he goes, when you travel over the border, did they give you a hard time? And I didn't say anything. He goes, because you fit the perfect profile. And I was thinking, do you even know what you're saying right now? That's a blatantly racist remark. But see, I only get that once in a while. But imagine 50 years ago or 100 years ago, how strong this would have been. But our elders faced that fear. And they did this successfully, which is why you and I are here. How to practice this? The next time you go to a family party, we all have our family parties. And the kids hang out in one corner, and the young adults hang in one corner. All the women are in one room, the men are in another room. So we have like a full demographics, like a high school. The Spanish people are here, the hip-hop people are here, right? Our parties are like that. Make time to sit with the elders in that party for some time. Ask them about their life. How was it raising children? How was it raising our parents? Get secret stories about your parents if you know them. But sit with them. Get to know them. And we will learn about good character, good conduct. Right now, there's a preview up for The Great Gatsby. Amitabh Bachchan's in it. Smart. Hollywood movie makers are very intelligent. They put one Indian character in there for a little bit, and they know 700 million people in India will watch that movie, right? It's smart. Anil Kapoor was in that movie too. He didn't do that much. But you see how they dressed back in the day. If you look at Pujaswami Chinmayananda, if our politicians, clothes were totally folded, hair was nicely combed, and so on. Now, the more ragged you are, the better looking you are, apparently. But see the good conduct, the way they spoke, the way they carried themselves, the way they wrote letters. We too can learn about Shila from our elders. That is how to practice this. The 2 wheels are done. The 2 flags are done. The wheels facilitate the motion of this chariot, but where does the power come from? The horses. The first horse, and I'll give you some context to this. I was recently in a center, and I stayed at a family's home, and they've never had an Acharya stay at their home. They had 2 boys. One was in grade 4, and one was in grade 6. And I didn't get to talk to them at night. The next morning at breakfast, I'm sitting with the parents, and their mother tells me, all my boys could talk about is how cool your shoes are. Because their concept of what an Acharya is someone who floats, or someone who doesn't wear shoes, like Lord Rama and so on. Our first horse is Bala. Now, Bala, in a preconceived notion, would mean strength. But in this context, it is health. Being healthy is what Bala means. Because only when we're healthy can we seek. Swasthatha is a Sanskrit word for health. Swa means my own. Astitva or asta, to be established in myself. I need to be healthy. This body is called Rogalaya, the abode of disease. Many of us were born with the diseases. Many of us get diseases constantly. And if we are unhealthy, then we cannot be, there's no power to this chariot if someone lacks health. At a CHYK level, this means to be balanced with what is inputted and outputted. Because we have this habit to live in the extreme. We don't eat anything for 12 hours, and then we eat 3 meals in 1 meal. We don't sleep for a week, and then we sleep the full weekend. This extreme behavior, and we're really fooling ourselves. I can't eat 1 meal and it'll last the whole week. I'm not a bear. I can't hibernate and store fat in my system. The same thing with sleep. We think cramming and catching up on sleep, that's a very university understanding. You cannot cram. These major exams that are 4 hours, 7 hours, that's what the real exams are. You can't study for them. The only way to study is to make sure that you're studying every day. Catching up on sleep over the weekends, I don't know why we think that. You can't catch up on sleep. We're not animals. Sleep lost is sleep lost. Pediatricians are now sharing that 1/3 of American kids are obese. Not overweight. Next in the line, and that's the end of the line, is obese. Just last year, there was 2 parents that were charged with negligence, criminal negligence. The one son, he was 13 years old and weighed 432 pounds. Without health, that person can't go anywhere. He literally cannot move anywhere. Obesity. Canada second, naturally. In India, 30% of kids in major cities are now obese. Their brothers and sisters in the villages don't have enough to eat. And here they're eating for twice as much as they should be eating. Isn't this a relevant subject? Isn't this applicable more now than ever before? When we live well, we will die well. Puja Swami Chinmayananda often said when people died, we ask, how did they die? Did they have a heart attack? Did they have a stroke, etc.? He used to ask, how did they live? That is really the determinant of how one dies. Many expressed a fear of death yesterday, correct? Maybe it's because we're not living well. Maybe if we live well, then we won't be afraid of death because we're living well. I'm doing what I want to do in life. One of our Balavihar teachers, her daughter passed away during orientation week from a cold. Literally, she was 18 or 19 years old. We were in a teaching context together, and she asked all of us, what would you do if you had 1 week to live? What would you do if you had 168 hours remaining till this body will stop? And after much discussion, the answer to that question should be, whatever you're doing in that 1 week, you should be doing now. Because who here knows that definitively we're going to make it to lunch? Nobody does. Yudhishthira and Bhima are sitting together, and a bhikshu comes and says, Bhiksham dehi, give me food, give me alms. Yudhishthira tells that bhikshu, come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you. As soon as he says it, Bhima gets up and fully prostrates at Yudhishthira's feet. And Yudhishthira is taken aback by this. Bhima, I know I'm your older brother, but we're equals. He says, we're not equals. I'm prostrating to you because you've conquered death. Because you know for sure that you'll be there tomorrow to give to that bhikshu. If we remember this, we will live well. We will not have fear of death. When I don't live well, that's when I fear death. If someone lives around God, what would you be afraid of then? When I leave this body, that's good. I get to go closer to God then, really speaking. How to practice this? At a practice level, 3 meals a day only. Make it a sadhana, a discipline, that you will not open your mouth for food more than 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, no snacking. And no less than 3 meals. So none of this 2-meal business, or I'm going to eat 1 meal because I'm studying. 3 meals. It may mean keeping bananas and apples, very resilient fruits with you. But this is how we will be bala. We will be healthy. Nothing to fear then. I will be healthy. That is the first horse. How many horses are on this chariot? How many horses are on Prince Arjuna's chariot? Is someone saying 4.5, like Indian style? There are 4 horses. Contrary to the pictures we see where there's 5, I checked this one, there's 4. There are 4 horses. Because you can't have a chariot with 5 horses. What kind of chariot is that, right? It's imbalanced. Each of these horses represent a sense organ. The tongue represents touch and taste. So there are 4 horses, okay? This leads us to one of the most popular terms in Vedanta, one of the most powerful terms in Vedanta, and that is Viveka, which is discrimination. And I was sharing yesterday, when I was asked to speak on Gita, and we were studying in the Vedanta course at the end, chapter 2, then again, immature business school attitude. So I'm speaking, and I looked at Guruji and said, in the context of Vedanta, I said, wherever there's Vivek, there's no problem. And he looked at me and just, what are you talking about? The second horse is Viveka, which means discrimination. At a spiritual level, this means the real is that which never changes. The unreal is that which does not exist. An example of that which is unreal is a rabbit's horns. Rabbits don't have horns, so we don't talk about it, we don't think about it, we don't act on it. Anything that is existing but changes is called an illusion. It's called a relative reality, mithya. This is stuff like the body. Do all of you experience your body? Is the body changing? We're all now 12 hours older than we were yesterday. The body's always changing. What is real? That which enlivens the body. Life. So why I'm sharing all of this is Vedanta, what Viveka means? Think long term. Discriminate on that which can bring joy and that which cannot bring joy. That's what Viveka is. So often we get lost in pleasures, but pleasures are always changing. Peace is never changing. Where is peace? In my heart. That's what discrimination is. Now, at a CHYK level, you and I all have this quality. When it comes to choosing what school to go to, don't we go through a thorough analysis? What program to get into? Who to court? What clothes to buy? What vacation to go on? What CHYK retreat to come to? There's this great discrimination. It's this filtering is happening. But all of this discrimination still tends to be about the world and not about the source of joy. So the direction is not taking me to where I want to. And that's why our discrimination tends to be amongst skin color, amongst girls and boys, the educated and uneducated, the rich and the poor. In a temple, the temple bhava should be when a king's crown is removed, when a soldier's shield is removed, they become equals. With a temple sentiment, we are all equals. Sleep is called the great equalizer because nobody's rich or poor when they sleep. No one's a girl or a boy when they sleep either. But see how our discrimination causes more separation? Even in this room, I'm sitting with my friends. I think one of the tasks was sit beside people you don't know. I'm looking around, I see a lot of people sitting beside people that they know quite well. That's discrimination. I don't know you, which means that I have some sort of fear against you, separation. How else will we overcome fear if we can't practice in this environment with friends? This kind of discrimination only creates separation and fear. This is why we chant Gayatri mantra. Gayanam trayate iti Gayatri. When I sing to Gayatri, I am praying to the sun. The way the sun illumines the whole world for me and allows me to see this and this, let that same sun illumine my intellect and teach me that this will bring me joy and this will not bring me joy. When Duryodhana and Arjuna went to Lord Krishna, who got there first? Duryodhana got there first. Where did Duryodhana sit? Lord Krishna is lying down, he's sleeping. Where did Duryodhana sit? At his head. Where did Arjuna sit? At his feet. Lord Krishna wakes up and looks at Arjuna first. Duryodhana cries and says, I got here first, wah, wah, wah. Lord Krishna hears none of it and says, I saw Arjuna first, number one. Number two, he's younger. You get to choose Arjuna. And he exemplifies why his name is Partha. Paramatman Artha iti Partha. The one who knows God is the only wealth. That's what Partha is. He chose Lord Krishna. Arjuna chose the weapons. Both got what they wanted. And it was Lord Krishna who helped Prince Arjuna. And Lord Duryodhana had 4 Akshohinis, units more than the Pandavas did. Still, at the beginning of chapter 1 of Gita, he's talking to everyone because he's so scared. He's using so many shlokas and adjectives to describe the Pandavas. And for the Kauravas, he's saying very little because he's scared. He knows God is not on his side. He didn't choose God, put it that way. And so, there's that fear. You and I too, when we know we haven't done the right thing, that fear kicks in. Use discrimination to bring people together. How? End Judgment Day. We love to judge. Even if we've been together for 12 hours, that person's really pretty. That person's kind of nerdy. That person, I don't think they're going to go far in life. That person's really successful. And these judgments kick in. We judge ourselves and act in that way too. And as long as there's judgment, separation. Let go of judgment. Who cares what someone's name is? Who cares what someone's form is? You're a human, I'm a human. Let's look at each other that way. rather than names and forms. I've shared this story many times, but it's such a perfect example for names and forms. I'm in Niagara Falls, going to my car, and a girl comes up to me and asks, "Do you have any money?" She wasn't mugging me, she was just asking me for money. And my brain is programmed in such a way, as soon as she asked me for money, in my mind I reacted saying, "People don't ask me for money, I ask people for money." And I said, "No." She goes, "Oh, you have some paint on your forehead." "It's not paint, it's sandalwood paste." "Why do you wear it?" "It reminds me that you and I are one." And she looks at me like imagine like a TV show. "No, we're not married." See how strongly society says if you don't exchange wedding rings, that means you can't be one. Then our love is going to be very limited then. That's discrimination and without direction. We have to practice with direction. First horse, health. Second horse, discrimination, leads us to our third horse. Puja Swami Tejamananda has shared that the first seed of samsara is fear. What caused Arjuna to break down is fear. And when fear is unchecked, when bhaya is unchecked, it devolves into shoka, sorrow. When sorrow is unchecked, it turns into moha, or delusion. And to make this more clear, I'll give you two examples. On a roller coaster, if this roller coaster doesn't end, it will slowly devolve into sorrow. And if it still doesn't end, it will devolve into delusion. I will lose my mind if I'm on a roller coaster all the time. Now I see that there's a lot of South Indians in the room. Pickle. Pickle, when it's in the pickle state, is good, like fear. But if pickle is not consumed in the right period of time, it turns into alcohol. It ferments too much. If it's still not checked, it turns into poison. So we have to check it right at the beginning. This is samsara. That if I don't check fear, it will just keep devolving. Like I jump into an ocean and I don't wade. I'm just going to sink. I'm not going to float. This is the first seed, so we need more horses. The third horse is called dhamma, or discipline. After we've discriminated at a spiritual level, we've discriminated. This will bring me joy, lead me to Rama. This will not bring me joy. This will lead me to Ravana. What should I do? I should be disciplined in my pursuit of Lord Rama, of joy. And in Vedanta, we have two great terms that showcase this. One is called sannyasa. Sannyasa means renunciation. Puja Swami Tejamananda was sharing. He was on a train once, and a mother and a son came and sat across from him, and the son was misbehaving. So the mother tells the son, "If you don't start behaving, I'm going to send you with him." That's not good for that boy's confidence, nor Swamiji's confidence. Preconceived notions of what sannyasa is means I have to give up my hair. I have to give up the color of my clothes or my family, etc. Sannyasa does mean renunciation. But what is that one aspect of who we are that we have to renounce? Ego. We have to renounce ego. So vidvat sannyasa, the highest form of sannyasi, is someone who's given up their ego. And this leads to another word, swami. Swami, I won't get into our preconceived notions. Swami means master. That's why for those who have watched Ramayana or Mahabharata, the wives would call their husbands Swami. That's master, pati, Lord. But who is a Swami a master of? Their sense organs. You and I use our sense organs to find joy. When I eat this, I'll be happy. When I see this, I'll be happy. When I hear this, I'll be happy. When I go to this concert, when I see this movie, etc., I'll be happy. But a Swami is someone who knows they are happiness. So they are a master of their sense organs. What it means at a CHYK level, we should use our sense organs intelligently. Like Hanumanji, he uses body, mind, intellect for the Lord's service. Why do I use my ears? Why do I use my eyes? Etc. Sri Lakshmana's mother had said that the fulfillment of a mother is when she has a son or a daughter who is devoted to Lord Rama. If a son or a daughter is not devoted to Lord Rama, then that mother, and there's a Sanskrit subhashitam, a word of wisdom that is intense, so take it in the right context. If a child doesn't raise the name of their family, doesn't make it more revered, more noble, all that child has done is taken away the youthhood of his or her mother. That's all that a child has done. I've just taken the beauty of my mother away. So what are we using our sense organs for? If we use it intelligently, it will be for the pursuit of Rama, to increase the name of my family. But today, we believe that all sense objects are meant for our enjoyment. If the food was created, that means I should be allowed to eat it. Even the diabetic thinks that. And we think that not engaging in sense objects is punishment. Discipline is punishment. That's why, again, it's astounding that this large sugary drinks was not passed. What does that, how? Understood it could be made more thorough, but the idea is so right. When we focus on ourselves, we focus on rights. My right to bear arms, my right to say what I want to say, my right to sleep when I want to sleep. When we focus on society, it's not rights we focus on, it's duties. My duty to the big picture. It was Jefferson, I think, who said, Jefferson or Kennedy, I don't know, ask not what your nation can do for you, but what you can do for your nation. Discipline. And every achiever in life, sacred and secular, has lived by discipline. Michael Phelps eats around 10,000 calories a day. For the average person, it's 2,000, so he eats for 5 people. But he's not 5 times our size. It is his discipline, physical, mental, that allows him to be healthy. There's one author, I think his name is Malcolm Gladwell, right? Keep mixing that up. He studied 50 achievers in society and studied what the common characteristic is amongst all of them. And that common thread was 10,000 hours. Michael Jordan, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, all of these people all spent 10,000 hours of practice to excel in what they do. Bill Gates was in a small community where they had 1 computer. And the only time that it was available for him, he's in high school, was 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. So some of you are in high school. He would sleep early, get up, go to that computer lab, learn about computers, then go to school. And he's the one who made C's into PCs. He brought computers and made them personal for you and I. Discipline. What Einstein used to do. He used to sit in a chair with 2 handfuls of marbles and just quieten his mind. And this is when he would come up with his theories, his revelations. And when his mind became too quiet, his hands would loosen, the marbles would hit the ground, and he would wake up. And not lie down in bed. He would collect them and do it again then. Discipline is Dhamma. For you and I, how to practice this? Before we do anything, we should ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Why am I eating this meal? Why am I driving to this person's house? Why am I meeting this person? Why am I studying this? Why am I getting married? Why am I having kids? Etc., etc. If I don't know why, it is just a ritual. And to make this more clear, the whole world is promoting multitasking right now. We should gear down into unitasking. Multitasking is a fallacy. It's a lie. Lord Krishna has taught you can only have one thought at a time. But now the world is saying, no, Lord Krishna is wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But you can only have one thought at a time. If you look at a diya, the tip of that flame is moving so rapidly, it looks like it's solid, but it's actually not solid. It just keeps moving. Whatever you do, just do that. Studying, no email, no phone, no music. Yes, no music. And it's like detox for us. Oh, what am I going to do without music? Try it. Driving, nothing. Just drive. Naturally, if it becomes intense and you're falling asleep, yes, turn the radio on, talk to someone, etc. Eating, just eat. That's what I was saying this morning. Many of you were in that detox phase, like you were angry. What do you mean I can't speak? I have to eat? That's so boring. In Vedic culture, one eats without speaking. For those who want to improve their health, I promise you, if you practice this for 1 month, that you will not speak while you eat, you will lose weight. You will not only lose weight, the food will taste better. The stomach has stuff in it and it's telling the mind, you're full, but the mind is talking, reading, doing whatever. So the stomach just keeps on getting stuff inside of it. I think all of our meals should be in Mona. I'll never be invited to a CHYK retreat. Again, unitask. Only do one activity at a time. Swami Chidamananda says, keep your mind where your hands are. This is how to practice Dhamma. And we'll finish the last horse too. The first horse was health. After I rate or make myself strong, that is physically, I get to the second horse. That is, I get to raise the field on which I engage. Now I'm getting to my intellect. Body and mind are strong. Now I'm getting to my intellect. Number 3, discipline. I act on that. It's not just an intellectual pursuit. It's a practical pursuit. And where should I practice this? The evolution, the 4th horse is parahita. Parahita means consideration. Consideration for who? Others. Para, for others. This is the evolution of these horses. Puja Swami Tejomayananda shared, Seva is the means to enlightenment. Seva is the expression of enlightenment. Want to let go of fear? Get involved in Seva. Want to know if you are free of fear? One will be fully immersed in Seva. Seva meaning service. Because at a practical level, this is the practice of oneness. It is the abidance in oneness. And I'll read to you a great quote that highlights this. The dignity of human life is in sacrificing everything for the sake of other people's happiness. Not sacrificing something, sacrificing everything. When Sri Lakshmana dropped off Mother Sita in the forest at Valmiki's ashram, he didn't know why. And Mother Sita told Sri Lakshmana, go back to your brother. You will find him in his bedroom, depressed. We often point fingers at Lord Rama. He sent Mother Sita away, blah, 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 blah. He took on all of the negativity that would have been directed at her, by sending her away, he protected her and took it all upon himself. Now he's forever remembered as the person who did the wrong, not her. Like the Dark Knight, he took on Harvey Dent's murders because the people were not wise enough to understand the full picture. Sacrifice everything for the sake of other people's happiness. This is dignity. At a CHYK level, it is to get into the habit of making time for others. We have to make time for others. Yesterday, many of you expressed that you have fears of being alone, letting people down, etc., etc. Make time for others and this fear will go away. The secret to being happy is to make other people happy. And we often, I should focus more and more on myself. That's actually the wrong way to be happy. Focus more and more on others. And remember that empathy requires time. And this is a downfall of the medical system right now. Too many patients, not enough physicians, so they're just pumped through offices. There's no empathy there. And it's not the physician's fault. They're not allowed to have empathy because there's no time. See this person, give them medicine, leave. It's not how are you? How are you feeling? How's your family? That empathy, they just don't have time for that. And if any of you are pursuing the medical field, please keep that in mind. That holding someone's hand is almost just as strong as giving someone a spoon of whatever they need to take. Give them that empathy. And we'll study that shortly. At a practical level, how to engage in consideration. How many hours a week do we have? 168. Start giving percentages of time away. So if you give 1% of your time away, that's only 1.68 hours, 2 hours. 2 hours to volunteering. And on every birthday, give 0.1% more. So if I'm 35, then I give 3.5% of my time should go to parahita. When I'm 47, 4.7%. When I'm 100, at least 10% of my time. It should actually grow cumulatively. Make this real by giving away percentages of time in consideration of others. So taking this Dharmarata, we've studied the wheels, the flags, and the horses. Naturally, what will be next? The reins. We'll take that up in the afternoon. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. Harihi om.